I thought he handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
Could he have done this a week ago? And maybe it's not a story 2 weeks after the excerpts of the book was released? Sure. But he handled it yesterday. For whatever reason, they didn't have him go week 1 of OTAs. And I think he did a good job. I think, the opening statement, him getting out in front of it instead of waiting for the inevitable questions to come to him was the right approach. And he sounded like a leader. Like, if I'm a Bears fan, I hear Caleb speak yesterday, and my, how I feel about him and how I feel about his leadership is strengthened by seeing how he handled that and didn't shy away from anything, met every question head on, didn't deny anything. And I mean, that's honestly more that can be said about Caleb than Tom Brady. When Seth's book came out, the It's Better to Be Feared book about Brady, Belichick, and Robert Kraft, Tom Brady denied everything. And it's very clear his involvement in that book was not just speculation. Caleb didn't. Like, there's a lot there, and it's probably only 1% of what, Seth's reporting actually made it into the book. And I think Caleb did a great job being able to say, yeah, these were thoughts and ideas that we had pre-draft, but once I went on my visit to Chicago, I wanted to come in and be the guy. And I don't think there's any better way he could have handled it than saying that and making sure that he really hammered that point and hit it home.
Do you believe this puts an end to it all?
Yeah, it should. Absolutely. There's nothing more to say about it. I don't know what the next follow-up question would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the only reason this stuff will get brought up again is if they lose and if Caleb struggles. There's going to be the sect of the fan base that always, people aim for low-hanging fruit and say, well, you didn't want to be here anyways.
Yeah, right.
I hope that's not the case for his sake, because I think he's handled it in a way, and the work that he's clearly putting in this offseason is showing you how badly he wants this, how badly he wants to put, a really bad chapter of his football career behind him. But that's the only way I think it ever becomes a story again, which, I know there's people in this fan base who didn't want to hear about this. I'm so sorry. This was a big story. If it doesn't get addressed, it lingers, and it's naturally because it is juicy information. And it's important information. It was stuff that was real. This was his real life experience as a rookie. And I think he had every right to talk about his season, however he felt it went down. And I think he had a right to give clarity on things that needed clarity for his sake, but also for the organization and the people that brought him here and believe in him.
Why does Ben Johnson feel it's important for him to kind of clean up some of the body language stuff?
I think it's interesting because they went through his film from last year and, pointed to specific moments where they felt he didn't have the best body language. And I think it's more than just Caleb. It's an accountability factor for everybody else. Because if you see the quarterback of your team, the most important position on the field, portraying himself in a certain way, and I kind of read between the lines, you don't want a defeatist body language out there. Because if you do, then other guys are going to see if he's giving up, then why should we still be all in? So I thought that was important, and I don't think there was any moments where Caleb's body language was reflective of anything other than I'm getting my ass kicked out here. Frankly, I keep thinking back to the Minnesota game on Monday night, and he's getting rocked, and yes, the cameras were showing him writhing in pain on the sideline and maybe laying a little bit too long on the ground. I'm never going to fault somebody for how they react to taking hits from defensive ends that are 5 times the size of me. But I understand he's in a position where you have to react differently to that and fight through, the pain and frustration of getting hit. And sometimes free rushers are coming at you and you feel like, well, if you would have just done your job differently, I wouldn't be on my back. All of those are thoughts that those are valid and he's allowed to have them. But I think what Ben Johnson wants is for Caleb to compartmentalize that a little bit better and show physical leadership through how he gets in and out of the huddle quickly, gets everybody else, in the right direction, because that stuff matters. That stuff does have a carryover effect into how you feel and how quickly you're able to bounce back from a bad play, a bad game, what have you.
Is this left tackle position trending to be Ozzie Trapillo's job to lose? We'll put it that way.
I think it's still early because what Ben Johnson said yesterday about Braxton Jones coming back and that it's going to be, Trapillo all day yesterday at left tackle. And then Last week it was Karan Hamagaji when we were out there for OTAs. They're going to be rotating between the two of them. But until Braxton comes back and it becomes a real competition to see who your starting left tackle is going to be, it's going to be those two. I think the more interesting part of this is that Darnell Wright has stayed at right tackle.
There you go.
Like, the Bears are the ones who opened the door about, oh, well, he could move. Like, he's got the versatility to do it. But that hasn't, they like him at right tackle, as they should, because he's played there for 2 years. So I think this is, it's their way of getting Trapillo reps at a position where he could actually see time next year instead of playing him at his more natural position that's already occupied by a starter.
In the defensive backfield, the guy that was a problem last year was Stevenson, obviously after the Washington thing, and then the fallout from that the whole way. What's the communication been like between the defensive coaches and Stevenson so far?
I know that there was this idea last year about what happened after the Washington game and whether he was getting the support he needed or not, because obviously, the boulder that he was carrying around, the shame he probably felt from, his actions leading to the play that then torpedoed their season. It's not all on him, but I can imagine just from being, a human here, he probably felt a lot of that weight. His personality in the locker room changed, at least when we were around. He didn't want to talk, and I get it, because he felt like the world was against him. But I think the coaching staff didn't do enough last year, from my understanding and conversations I had with people on last year's staff, to try to help him move past that. So this year, and what we've heard from Al Harris a couple of weeks ago when he talked before the draft, and what you're seeing out there is someone who's present, which again, he doesn't have to be. It's voluntary OTAs, but he's here because clearly he wants to be. And knowing that this is a chance for him going into year 3 to put a really tough season behind him and show that he can not let anything from last year affect how he plays, because pretty soon he'll be in a contract year. These seasons go quickly. Yeah. And this is such a pivotal moment for him in his career as a second-round pick to show Ryan Poles, his front office, his coaching staff, his value, and not just his value for now, but setting himself up for long-term value here.
Anything we need to know about mandatory minicamp next week and what we expect?
So it's June 3 through 5. I don't imagine Caleb will speak again until training camp. Right. So that's one thing. Usually the quarterback will talk during mandatory camp, but since he got it out of the way yesterday, I don't imagine he will again, but you'll get 3 days of Ben Johnson. And, the others that we haven't heard from yet are DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Jalen Johnson. I think that's, there's important things that, DJ on however many coaches this has been for him. Roma Dunze going into year 2 and hearing what Ben Johnson said about Rome last week was, pretty eye-opening, just of saying he's one of the best, prepared pros that he's been around. But in addition to all of that, there's going to be, Ben said he doesn't anticipate any injuries keeping guys out. So there's a few guys, Luther Burden dealing with a soft tissue injury. Kyler Gordon is as well, TJ Edwards. Ben said he didn't expect any absences. So I'm curious to see injury-wise, because we know guys like Colson Loveland won't be playing because they're still rehabbing. But, they got their contract stuff done. Out of the way before any of it could have even rose to the level of being an issue. So no holdouts expected. And if health is if it's true where they're trending health wise, that's a great sign if they don't feel they're going to have anybody that can't play next week.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you said DJ Moore. How many coaches is this? Is this 4 coaches in 5 years? I think it's 3 in 3 years for Caleb.
I think that's right. And
right?
I've lost track of the offensive coordinators for him too. So.
Too many. It's a lot of different coaches in a 5-year span for one player.
It is. And, for him to have Antoine Randall out, because, there's a lot of different experiences in that room, and there's a lot of different places that guys are at in their career. I remember talking with Randall L. in April about how different is it going to be when you have to coach DJ Moore, who's done things a certain way for 7 years in the NFL, versus Rome, who's ready to take off in year 2. And I think that he's going to have his work cut out for him, because that's 2 different styles that you've got to approach it with. And then if you throw in Luther Burden, who's just getting started, you've got to go even further back to the basics with one specific player. Whereas you've got DJ, who's the clear leader in that room, trying to get himself back to where he was 2 years ago. So there's a lot there. I think the receiver room is going to be probably one of the more interesting dynamics on the team this year.
Yeah, good point. All right, Courtney, anything else we need to know, or is that about it?
Yeah, I think the one other thing for joint practices that Ben mentioned yesterday, it's going to be 1 day each with Miami and then with Buffalo, and then it'll be the preseason game. So probably similar format to what they did last year with the Bengals. I just remember that was a closed practice day because of weather. So don't know what the schedule should be coming out for camp, I would imagine, by like the second or third week of June. So fans can probably anticipate one of those practices being open, I would imagine, before the preseason game.
All right, good stuff, Courtney. We'll talk to you next week for mandatory minicamp. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.